So the leaks for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 24 have just been released. And the leaks basically confirm a lot of the things that we have been talking about recently, and we have the ending of this so-called arc. But a lot of things are going to happen in the chapters to come, as did Kawaki and Boruto make the future better or worse? But this is what we find out in this chapter. So starting off with the leak, we know that the title of this chapter is Uzumaki Kawaki, which is kinda interesting considering the pattern that we had before. I really love the chapter cover from right now. You know I give my in-depth analysis in the chapter review, but from what I can clearly tell here, it is a lovely chapter cover. We start off the chapter with a flashback between Boruto and Kawaki, where we have their discussion of the mission of the sand, the mission that will be taking place in the village of the hidden sand, where Boruto ends up giving Kawaki his emblem, which has the leaf symbol, and Boruto basically tells Kawaki that at some point he will need him to be there, which will eventually act as a way for Kawaki to interfere and give Boruto time so that he can gather everybody up in one single location. And then at that location, Boruto is going to be able to teleport there and essentially get everybody away. So we see Kawaki and Jura fighting, and the fight looks pretty good. The first thing that we can clearly see is Jura, who is using the Biju bombs and heading towards Kawaki. Jura uses the Biju bomb and then Kawaki proceeds to absorb it. Then Jura pops up behind Kawaki, and then we see him attempt to hit him, which Kawaki then responds by shrinking and teleporting away. Kawaki then uses the Daiko Koden, and we already know with the Daiko Koden that its main purpose not only it is to crush people, but it does end up making your ability to sense people a lot harder, which is probably what Kawaki intended to do using this ability. This is what we end up seeing Kawaki use to his advantage, as he ends up popping back up and then hitting Jura away. After Jura is hit away, he is around those Ishiki cubes that we saw before, with a Boruto who is flying up. Then Kawaki ends up almost like grabbing Jura using his scientific arm, and then we see the fight continue, with a Kawaki, just like we saw in that sneak peek page, who ends up attempting to impel Jura. And then, using the karma, we see that Kawaki can make the endpoint of his blade explode, which is something that I haven't seen before, and may be a cool ability that he has. He ends up doing this multiple times throughout Jura's body, and we actually see it take effect. Then we go back to Boruto, who has his karma who is slowly appearing, and it resembles a lot the patterns that we used to see when Momoshiki was taking over. But Jura is telling himself that it's fine, no problem, I just have to calm down. And then we see a Kawaki who basically removes the karma and is now looking at Jura, who is at one of the pillars in the sand, and a lot of people seem that, oh, maybe Kawaki actually defeated Jura. Jura isn't that big of a threat. And this is the opinion that even characters like Sumire had, saying incredible, to corner that Jura this badly. Maybe just like this, he may win. This is what she probably meant to finish, as we have a ... we have an Amado who says no, ... As what do we see Jura do? It's not a secret attack, but he pulls out a book. And this basically tells me this entire time that Jura has been holding back, something that I have been saying this entire time, and obviously people had their disagreements when I made videos about it in the past, but I knew that this chapter was gonna confirm this, and this is what we're seeing being confirmed here. This is a Jura who is holding back. And why is Jura holding back? Because he has questions that he wants to ask. He is the same reason he held back on Boruto, because he wanted to ask Boruto questions about love, as this is what we see here, as Jura is basically talking about the fact that Kawaki has gained this much power in such short time, and it isn't just him. The same thing happened with Uzumaki Himawari, and the same thing also happened with Uchiha Sarada, who was able to defeat one of his kin. and he believes that all of it is due to love. And that's why he pulls up his notepad, as Ikemoto told us, where he writes his daily interests, everything that he finds interesting and is curious about. This is the book in which we see Jura write about it, and it's also the book in which we see the Shinji members look at in that cover page, and that is due to the fact that he is learning something new. So due to the strength that Kawaki now has, he is going to record and write it in his book. And it also just proves to Kawaki, it proves to everybody that essentially Jura is holding back this entire time. Jura is not being threatened at any point right now, and if he really wanted to, he could easily destroy both of them right now, which is the reason why we don't see Jura be killed in this instance. As Jura says right now, my hottest research topic is what you'd call love, the unique uncertainty that you humans possess. It is an undeniable fact that it can be a fatal flaw, but at the same time, it could be a factor that enables unparalleled evolution. Kawaki, what do you think? Give me my honest opinion. Jura is fighting Kawaki with this stance, not with a stance of somebody who is trying to kill you or capture you to send you to the divine tree, but before he ends up doing all of that, he genuinely tries to find out the answer to this question. We have Kawaki, who slowly walks up to Jura using his finisher move, the one that we have seen him use thousands of times versus characters like Garo. He even tried it against Code, but here he tries it against Jura. And then what happens? Jura simply is able to evade it somehow, as we don't see him take any damage, and the way he's able to do so is using the divine tree roots that are spread around the world. And this is actually kind of crazy, as this is likely what Masuri was referring to, these divine tree roots that have made it around the entire planet. And I don't want to discuss this in a spoiler video, as it will be likely best discussed in a discussion video itself. However, this just proves how much Jura is holding back, as this is an ability that can really be helpful in battle, but I'll discuss this a little bit later. But what we see here is Jura basically healing himself up, and we see him sitting in this throne that he has amassed using the divine tree roots, and he basically tells Kawaki that there is no rush right now, that he simply wants to talk. And this has been something about Jura that has been told time after time. Jura is now going all out in this fight, and we can clearly see this in this chapter. This is where we have a discussion between Kawaki and the fact that Uzumaki Naruto is alive. Jura has deduced it himself, and that is pretty interesting to me, because is he going to find a way to bring back Naruto? That would be something pretty interesting. And he's literally able to tell Kawaki. His reading ability of Kawaki is something that has gotten a lot better. And this does anger Kawaki in a way, as Jura poses a question of what is love? If I devour Naruto, maybe I'll understand it a little better. And then we see Kawaki get mad, saying you bastard like usual. And this is where Boruto pops in. Everything is fine. Everybody has gathered up in that one location, and Boruto is like, sorry for keeping you waiting, let's step. And this is what we're currently seeing take place. Jura basically lets them go, doesn't do much of anything, and he is kind of happy. He lets Boruto and Kawaki end up moving away. But Kawaki needs to have the last word, and he says, hold on a second. Hey Jura, listen up real close. I don't care about love or any of that crap, but still, your instincts for targeting the seventh, that gut instincts of yours, I'll give you credit for it, but don't get the wrong idea. One day, I'll definitely kill you, without fail. And this is something that Jura actually appreciated, and he appreciated the honesty that he had. And before leaving, classic Kawaki, we have a Jura first who ends up saying, I'm glad we got to talk, let's meet again, showing that he really doesn't have too much hostility. But we have a Jura who basically sends the middle finger his way. He tells him to frick off, as this is simply something that is part of Kawaki's character, and it did make me laugh. We had a bit of comedic scenes like this. Boruto has been very serious this entire time, and it's very cool to see some of these moments where we have some funny things happen here and there. And we go back to Konohamaru, and Kawaki appears on his face. What is he doing? He's trying to get a replica of what Boruto did to Code. This is fodder though. You can't do it on Konohamaru. It's not a feat. I'm sorry. And he literally steps on Konohamaru's face, and then he's like, oh, what are you doing, bastard? This whole scene is pretty funny to me. And we have And we basically have a short interaction with them, basically discussing the Thorn Soul and what is important. But what is important before the end of this chapter is what we see end up being discussed here, with Ida, who is basically happy due to everything going right in a way, as both Boruto and Kawaki were not killed. But Kashin Koji says something important, that this could have destroyed the better future that all of them were waiting for. This gamble was quite dangerous. And Ida's like, yo, nah, everything's looking good. But Kashin Koji ends up telling her, no, everything's not necessarily looking good, because Ida, Mamushi is moving and you are his target. So this is what we're currently seeing. The future that Kashin Koji saw is slowly and maturely coming to be, and that future may not necessarily be better than what may have happened if Boruto never interfered. So it truly was a gamble. And here we have Jura, who goes back to the base. And in that base, we see a Jura who is actually happy. He is happy after having this conversation with a Hidari, who poses, what is with that face? Are you feeling sick? And Jura says it is quite the opposite, that he is happy that Kawaki has praised him. And then Hidari picks up a book and he is looking for a word. And the best word to describe it would be, this is disgusting as hell. And Jura's happiness that he had acquired has now been ruined with Hidari's fresh new words. And this is where the chapter ends. The chapter, to me, right now, it's looking pretty good. I'm happy that it confirms a lot of the things that we saw in the previous chapters, and I really like the way this ended. I really like the characterization from Jura. Everything here is pretty much in character, and I really love how it seems like these guys are going to be the main villains for quite some time, and they're slowly going to get stronger. What's going to happen though regarding the Senju? Are we going to see an arc where Jura ends up leaving to potentially get new members and turn new people into Senju? Is going to be a very interesting questions. But for the moment, let me know what you think on the leak so far. This is a chapter that seems like it's going to be a very highly rated chapter. I'm going to be rating for all the text. I'm going to be rating for all the text to be translated, and maybe if it is translated a little early, I will be able to drop a video for you before the chapter ends up being released officially. Let me know your thoughts, comments, and concerns. It's been your boy Dynasty, and I'm out, bruh.